Hi guys. I hope you guys are doing all right. We're just continuing on, so this will be part 2. I'll just say that I am recording. So we've covered there in limited detail. There we've got bones and muscles and lymph, and we had one slide there on endocrine, and just the whole idea there that um, the body communicates with each other, and in what way. And you've got the nerves there, you've got the endocrine system there, and you know what I mean. I'd love to go into detail, but you really can't. And just more of an awareness, okay, of what's going on here. What do we got here? And you'll see here that we've now moved on into a different. Now we've got blood. Yeah, there's only about 5 liters of blood in the human body. That's about it, and not a lot, you know. And you'll see there that most of the blood is not where you might think it would be. And we'll show you that there in a second. I have a really good slide. But what is blood? It's it's not just one thing. It's kind of like milk, kind of like a colloid. It's a suspension. It's got all these different things in it, right? It's got, of course, RBCs. Okay, okay. It's got white blood cells. Okay, these are your sniffer dogs. And then we've got platelets in here. There's a whole bunch of things going on. There's oxygen and dissolved in here. There'll be carbon dioxide, minerals, urine, all these kinds of different. Your blood is there to move things around, get things to where it needs to be. Okay, so we've got hormones, waste, oxygen, nutrients, all these kinds of things. It's a liquid there, three or four more times more viscous, thicker than water. And you'll see that there's lots going on here. What blood does, okay, it allows a vehicle. It's basically the car for getting things around, okay, moving things around, transporting oxygen, carbon dioxide, nutrients, waste. Regulates a whole bunch of things here. Temperature, right? The internal temperature gets hot or hotter or warmer. The blood gets warmer, and the blood, you'll see there the cardiovascular system will the arteries, okay, they're muscle. They can expand, they can contract however the body needs, and they can expand if they're close to the skin. They can expand to get closer to the skin, and therefore there we can release some heat through the skin. Acids and bases, okay, and that's through breathing there that we can control, because your blood, we need it at around 7.4, all right, as a pH. Fluid electrolyte balances, all these kinds of things. Protection against infection and bleeding. Okay. The blood there is about 55% plasma. Okay. And it's just this clear yellowish liquid. All right. We've got 45% there. This is your RBCs. Great word there. Erythrocytes. Just means RBC. You've got leukocytes, okay, which are your WBCs, your white blood, your T cells, these kinds of things. And you've got platelets there. I'm not too worried. That would be a good one there to know. 45, 55%. That's what we're looking at there. But that is what your blood is, okay? The distribution of blood flow at rest. I thought this was an interesting slide, okay? And if you're at rest, you see what's going on here. And yeah, okay, your skeletal muscles there. There's 20% of the blood is there. Your skin, 99%. The kidneys, 20% of the blood is with the kidneys when you're resting, and 24% of the blood. So you see, when you're resting, you're digesting. All the blood flow is in your torso. It's in your thorax there. You're getting stuff done. You're digesting that banana. You know what I mean, you're doing whatever the organs need to do. But then, look what happens there when you're exercising. Right? These guys here, they take a back seat. And the skeletal muscles there, they get all the blood. That's why the whole thing is that you never eat lunch and then go for a swim. Because if you're eating lunch, this is where your blood wants to be. Okay, digesting your lunch, getting it all ready to go. But then if you go swimming, this is where your blood is. So you're having blood issues. Your blood wants to be here digesting your lunch, but you're here, and there's the possibility there that you could get into trouble, because if your blood is all here and you don't have any blood here and you need blood there because you're swimming, you're going to go down. All right. The cardiovascular system is basically composed of, two systems, and we're going to see how this goes here. You have your heart in the middle, okay, and we haven't got there yet, but we'll get there with respiration, right? You breathe in oxygen, and the oxygen goes to the blood, okay? So, and then the blood goes to the body. The oxygen is given to the body. Carbon dioxide is received, right? And this carbon dioxide will come back up here. So let's just go through. There are two systems here. There's called the systemic and the pulmonary. Pulmonary is just another word for lungs. Write that one down. Pulmonary means lungs. Okay? So, you'll see here that, let's say that, I don't know. Here's my big toe. All right. So, the blood just dropped off oxygen there to my big toe, and my big toe just dropped off carbon dioxide to the blood. So you see here, this blood is coming back from my big toe. There's no oxygen. It's carbon dioxide. Okay, and it comes up there to the heart. Okay, and you'll see there that the deoxygenated blood comes in. This is called, and comes into the heart, and then you'll see what goes on here. The blood comes in, and then it goes to the lungs. You have your right and left pulmonary arteries right here, okay? And where the blood picks up oxygen from the lungs, then it comes back to the heart. This is what we call the pulmonary circuit, okay? Where this blood here isn't going to the body just yet. This blood here is going to the lungs to pick up oxygen, and then comes back to the heart, immediately. So the blood comes in here, goes right to the lungs, picks up oxygen, comes back to the heart, full of oxygen. That right there is called your pulmonary circuit. So it's heart to lung, lung to heart to lung to heart. That's it. That's your racetrack. Okay, so this oxygenated blood comes back, okay, and then it comes in here and out the aorta to the body. So now it's going to the body. It can actually go up here as well. Okay, so the oxygenated blood now goes to the body, goes to my big toe, drops off the oxygen, picks up the carbon dioxide, and goes back again. This is what we call the systemic circuit. Systemic is just a fancy word for body. So there's the pulmonary circuit, okay, which is heart-lung. There is the systemic circuit, which is heart-body. Okay? Any issues with that, just let me know. Okay, but you got two circuits going on here. Here's just a shot of the heart. Okay? That was just gone. That's the one I wanted to remove. And you'll see here, it's exactly the same as what we have here, and just a little bit more detail. This one right here is called your vena cava. Okay, the two big bananas as far as blood carriers. Okay, you have your aorta, which is coming off here. Massive, massive artery, the biggest in the body. Okay, and this is oxygenated blood leaving the heart. But when blood is returning to the heart, okay, it all comes through the vena cava. Call it the opposite of the aorta, but it's carrying deoxygenated blood. Okay? And you'll see here that you have your superior vena cava and your inferior vena cava. Should make perfect sense. Okay, this one here coming there from the lower body, this one here is coming from the upper. Okay, so the deoxygenated blood comes in through the vena cava into the right atrium. Okay, and again, you don't have to memorize these things, they're all right here. Coming in through the right atrium, okay, goes through down to the right ventricle, and then goes out. I have a really good schematic cartoon that I'll show you, all right? And then it goes to the lungs. And then it comes back from the lungs, and now we have oxygenated blood. Comes in there through the left atrium, the left ventricle, and then out the aorta. So that's the system here. And you'll notice, okay, here and remember, anatomical position. We talked about this there last week, right? You're looking at this person. This is the right side, even though it looks like it's the left side because I'm looking at it and it looks like the left side. But this is the right. This is your right atrium, your right ventricle, your left atrium, your left ventricle. And just look at these guys. Look at the muscle that's involved here on the left side as compared to the right side. Your heart is very, very, very lopsided. And you'll see here that the blood comes in through the right atrium down to the right ventricle. Where is this blood going? Pulmonary circuit, right? It's going to the lungs. And how far is the heart from the lungs? Not very far. So you'll see there that the muscle isn't very thick here. The muscle on this side, though, is massive. This is your left ventricle. This is your workhorse on this side. And when the blood comes back there from the lungs, comes in, whoosh, every single heartbeat, the aorta gets a pounding. Okay? Because massive pressure here. There's little things in here. You can have a look. This is what I wanted to show you guys here. The muscle there of the heart. 'Cause the heart is a muscle. This is cardiac, right? Cardiac muscle is the only place where cardiac muscle exists. Okay? And you'll see here that the outer lining of the heart is what we call the pericardium. Okay? And then you'll see here that there's a gap. You remember what we were talking about there? The last week there with the lungs, right? You have your, just those encapsulation cavities there for the lungs. Okay? And we'll get back into that in a second there. But all of these guys here, they have these encapsulations. And you'll see here you have your pericardium there on the outside. Okay? And then on the outside of the heart, this is just the covering of the heart. On the outside of the heart there, you have your epicardium. Okay? And in between the epicardium and the pericardium, you have this cavity. Okay? It's all about concealment, because if there's an infection in one organ, we don't want it going to another organ, right? And then you have your myocardium. You may have heard of myocardial infarction. Okay? It's just another word for heart attack. Myocardium. Myocardial infarction. Infarction means death. And this is one of them. And we'll, I have a good slide there on atherosclerosis, so we'll get there. So we have your epicardium. You have your myocardium. This is your muscle. This is what's pushing the blood around. And then the inside lining on the inside of the heart here, we call your endocardium. Okay, so there's your pericardium, your epicardium, myocardium, and endo. Okay, again, nothing you have to remember. You just need to refer to the slide. Okay, know where to find it. And I made this up here. It's more of a kind of a schematic there to help you guys just to find the lineage, the, where is the blood going. And you'll see here that the blood comes in, number one, through the inferior superior vena cava, and then comes in there, number two, through the right atrium. Okay? And then there's a valve. Like these valves, it's quite amazing the progress in science and technology that medicine has made. My dad had a faulty valve, and he had open heart surgery and was home in the afternoon. It's incredible. Really was. And yeah, So these little valves here, like the whole idea that a heart goes lub-dub, lub-dub, lub-dub. And all it is just the sound of these valves closing. And if these valves aren't closing properly, you're not going to get a lub-dub, lub-dub. You're going to get a lub-dub-dub, lub-dub-dub. Well, right then and there, whoa, we got a problem, right? So you've got your, and you'll see these called by different names. I'm not really interested. I don't think you're going to get, you promise you're not going to get a question on any of these valves. But I will get you on a couple of the territories of the heart here. So you have your right atrium. Blood comes down here to your left atrium. Sorry, right atrium down to your right ventricle. Coffee. And then, so there's your lub, the whole process of moving that blood from the right atrium to the right ventricle. There's your lub. And then dub is the blood moving out of the right ventricle, okay, to the lungs. And you'll see there, deoxygenated, there's no oxygen here, goes to the lungs, picks up oxygen, and comes back. That's your pulmonary circuit, right? And number 7 there, coming in through the pulmonary vein, and we enter the left atrium. And then this blood moves from the left atrium down to the left ventricle. Now, let's get back to the lub-dub. Lub is the sound of the blood moving into the atriums and down. So this is the lub. And you see here, blood moves in here, down to the right ventricle. Blood moves in here, down to the left. We have deoxygenated blood on this side, oxygenated blood on this side. So there's your lub, and then dub. This blood here goes to the lungs. This blood here goes to the body. So, and I'll show you this right here. Do I have this right here? Let's see if we can see this right here. And you see here that this has to do with the pacemaker. But you'll see there that both sides of the heart there are contracting at the same time. So you get blood coming from both sides into your right atrium, left atrium, and it comes on in. There's your lub and then dub. But this shows you here, this is a good little slide here. Just shows you the pathway of what's going on. And then this is going there to the body. Normal blood pressure, I'm saying it's 80 over 120 over 80, which is normal. Okay, but they're actually saying there that it's not normal anymore. They actually prefer 115 over 75. They say that 120 over 80, okay, if you got that, you're good. You're okay, you're normal. But they actually prefer a little less. Okay. A couple of words there. Systole just means contraction. So you can have atrial systole or ventricle systole. Just means contraction. And diastole means relaxing. And these are all words there that you will most definitely see in a hospital setting. Okay. And that's where I kind of, I made this PowerPoint there with that in mind. Was you guys going off into a hospital setting, and here's a little bit of anatomy and physiology that will be useful. And you'll see that I really like this one, this little diagram right here. You'll see that the pressure coming from the heart, like what is blood pressure? You know, when you strap that cuff on and then, you know, it gets so tight, and then the release, right? And then there's that moment of silence or 2 or 3 seconds of silence where the bag is, and then that's it, right? Well, blood pressure, you've got your systolic pressure and your diastolic pressure, okay? And blood pressure there, the force of the blood against the vessel walls. So you've got pressure when the blood is when the heart is pushing the blood, okay? The blood is now putting pressure on your arteries, right? Well, systolic pressure there is the pressure in the large arteries at the peak of a systole, of a contraction. The diastolic pressure is the pressure in the large arteries during relaxation. So basically you've got the top pressure over the bottom pressure. All right, and we want to know the pressure there when there's a contraction. We want to know the pressure there when there is no contraction, and that's what this means. And if you have a look here, your aorta and your larger arteries, smaller arteries, look at the pressure. Massive amounts of pressure. That's why I'll show you there a little slide there when we get into some of the vessels there. You'll see that arteries are thick and spongy and elastic. Veins, look, they don't have any pressure. So the heart is basically pumping your oxygenated blood to your big toe, and then that blood is kind of left on its own. Yes, your heart is pumping it up, but this stuff here, there's no pressure. So actually, how is the blood getting back to the heart? Look, there's no pressure at all. Look, your vena cava is actually kind of a negative pressure. And it's through the skeletal pump. Again, the skeletal pump is involved in two factions here. We need the skeletal pump. You need to be active to get that lymph back to the heart. But you also need to be active to get that blood back to the heart. Because the veins work the same way. There's this kind of valve system. Okay? And that's how your blood there from your big toe gets up from your inferior vena cava. Think of inferior vena cava coming from the bottom. Okay? And the only way that stuff gets up to fight gravity is by you moving. Okay? So that's that one there. I thought that was kind of a cool little slide there. You know, blood pressure is important. This one here, if you guys are going into a hospital setting, absolutely. Okay? This is your ECG, what we call the electrocardiogram. And it records the electrical changes occurring in the myocardium. Remember, that's the meat of the muscle, right? Right in here. That's your myocardium. Records the electrical changes occurring in the myocardium during a cardiac cycle. Creates an electrocardiograph. You know, there you see on any of the TV shows, you see this right there on the screen. Okay, we call this there your PQRS T complex. We'll get there. The electrocardiograph there determines normal conduct pathway if the heart is enlarged, regional damage. Remember just little things like the lub-dub? Just by listening to the heart, we can tell if there's an issue. Just by looking at this, if we get something on the screen that doesn't look like this, we know there's an issue. And you know what I mean? You've got, am I going to test you on this? I don't think so. But the P wave there, this is your small little one right here. Your P wave there, small upward wave, represents atrial depolarization. And you'll see that the pacemaker, the heart has a pacemaker, and it is located in the right atrium. And we call this there your SA node. It's actually called your sinoatrial node. SA node is fine. And what happens is an electrical discharge happens right here, which spreads. And what happens there? We get a contraction. Now remember, the blood comes in here from the vena cava. The blood is coming in here from the lungs. Okay? So you've got blood and blood in both atriums. And you'll see there that they both contract at the same time, which pushes the blood down into the ventricles. And then you get the dub, and you'll see here that the electrical charge flows down the septum and moves up on this side and moves up on this side. And you'll see that now we have what we call the PQRS. Okay, and this is the ventricle. It's pushing now. So a couple of words there. I just want you guys to depolarization. Okay, it's a loss of charge, precedes contraction. Repolarization. Okay, charge recover. So depolarization, contraction. Repolarization, kind of relaxation. And you guys can have a look at these there. I would love to test you guys on the ins and outs of a QRS complex. You know, the P wave there. Here we're talking about the atrium. Atrial depolarization. It contracts. The QRS complex, okay, here we're talking about ventricular depolarization. Okay? But within this one here, we actually have another, I'm not going to get into it. You have what we call atrial repolarization. It relaxes. But you'll see there that the T wave here, this one here is about relaxing. So all we're talking about here is what is contracting, what is relaxing. And in a perfect heartbeat, this is what we're looking at here. And I'm not going to test you on anything crazy on this, but you know what? Where you guys are going, if you guys are going to be in a hospital setting, you should know what a PQRS T wave looks like and break it all down. Do I have the capacity to teach you that, to test you on this? No. Okay. Hi, Shire. I'm teaching. What can I do? No, you have a treat after. Dude, I gotta go. Love ya. Yes, me there. Conniving. I love him. Sneaky kid there. He knows that I'm teaching, and he knows that I'm trying to keep it good here. And he goes, "Dad, give me a treat." And I go, "Forget it, man. You want cookies? I'll give him a cookie after lunch." But your SA node, which is your pacemaker, okay, it's up here in the right ventricle, and you'll see how this thing works here. Okay. And you see how it goes down and then goes around. That's how it goes. And when we get a contraction here for the atriums, the blood moves down. There's your lub. And then once the charge comes down and around, we get our dub and the blood exits the heart. The moving on into the circulatory, just a little there. I'm not going to go too crazy, but a little bit about the veins, arteries, these kinds of things. And you have a look here. Look at the difference there between arteries and veins. Okay. The vein, you'll remember there, kind of looks like the lymph, right, with these flaps. And while the arteries over here, you have a look. Just look how thick, spongy, muscular they are. They can stretch. These guys here, they can take a punch like the aorta does every heartbeat. It can take a whack load of punches over the course of, hopefully over the course of your entire life, right? Okay. And you look at the vein, it's flimsy. There's really there's no pressure. It doesn't have to take any pressure. It doesn't have to be like the artery. Okay. Arteries are like this because they take a punch every single heartbeat. These guys here, there's no pressure. We saw it right here. Very little pressure. So how does blood return back to the heart? Well, your skeletal pump pushes up, and then these flaps come down, and then more skeletal pump goes up and up and up and up. That's how it goes. Here's just an electron micrograph of a vein and an artery. You can see here an artery, much more sturdy, solid, able to hold its shape. Veins, you don't need it to because there's not a lot of pressure. Varicose veins. They occur most commonly in the leg. They're just leaky veins. That's all they are. Okay. And you guys can have a look at the differences here, but I think we've covered them. Okay. Yeah, that's good. 5 functions of the blood vessels. Of course, they act as a delivery system. Okay. Inadequate blood flow is equate to something called ischemia. Regulates blood pressure. Engages in the exchange of nutrients and waste between the capillaries and the cells. Now, before I do that, regulates the blood pressure. It doesn't really. The blood vessels don't regulate the blood pressure. They get told to regulate the blood pressure there by the kidneys. We'll get into kidneys there a little bit without too much detail. But the kidneys, everyone thinks the heart is the big boss. Nah, kidneys are. Kidneys, they do a lot. And they tell the arteries there to constrict or relax. Okay, you have vasoconstrictors, you have vasodilators. Okay, and if your cardiovascular system is just a bunch of tubes with blood, well, if those tubes can get smaller, what's that going to do to the pressure inside of your cardiovascular? It's going to go up. The kidneys, they need a high blood pressure when they need it. All right, and they will commandeer the entire cardiovascular system to do what it wants them to do. So these arteries here, they can contract, which will increase the blood pressure. They can dilate, which will decrease the blood pressure depending upon what the kidneys need. All right, and I put this slide in here. I thought this was kind of cool. Sorry. Maybe my definition of cool and your definition of cool are probably very different. That's fine. But I just wanted to show you there that the majority of your blood at any given point in time, okay, is wrapped up in the capillaries. So we have the aorta, okay, so the blood comes out of the heart, hits the aorta, right? And then comes down, okay? And I want you guys to think about this as more like a river system. Now, the aorta, this is high pressure, fast moving, oxygenated blood. Can I use this for anything? No. It's too high pressure, too much blood, moving too fast. So then what we do is we slow it down. So then you see here, you got all this aorta blood and we slow it right down. So now we've broken it here. These are what we call arteries. Is there still a lot of pressure in here? Oh, yeah. Where is that? See? So your arteries there to your larger arteries. You see there, we're slowing this down so that therefore now the pressure is going to drop. Because the whole point of blood is to exchange nutrients, exchange oxygen, exchange carbon dioxide, exchange these things. Well, I can't exchange things until I get down to the microscopic level, because cells do exchanging. So we have the aorta down to arteries, down to arterioles. Now we're starting to get microscopic. And then we get into capillaries. And capillaries are the only place in the body where nutrients, gases, these things can be exchanged between cells. Okay? And that's why the majority of our blood at any given point in time is wrapped up in the capillaries. All right? And so I just thought that that was interesting. And you'll see there that the blood coming there from the aorta goes down to the arteries and arterioles there. It slows it right down. And then when it gets to the capillaries there, gas exchange, nutrient exchange. And now the blood here is deoxygenated, and it's almost the reverse now, okay? And it goes from the capillaries there to the venules, to the vein, to the vena cava, and back up. Thought that was interesting. And that's what I wanted to show you there. The blood vessels there, think river system, okay? It's all about resistance and pressure. And where did that slide go? This one right here. This one here, very important. Okay, too much pressure, it's no good to anybody. We've got to slow this blood down, get it there microscopic, and that's the whole point of the capillaries, okay? What is plaque? You'll see there that these arteries there, they can get plugged up, okay? And just the whole idea that if you look at butter, even ghee, butter, these kinds of things, butter is a solid at room temperature. And then you have, olive oil, sunflower oil, okay? It's a liquid at room temperature. But butter, ghee, is fat. Oil is fat. They're both fat, fat. Fat, 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 fat. What's the difference? Fat that is a solid at room temperature generally comes from an animal. Okay, like milk, fat, these kinds of things. Fat that is a liquid at room temperature generally comes from plants. Okay, and then you get the worst stuff made in the universe, which is margarine, which is plant stuff that, oh, they're such liars. Margarine there, the whole thing. It's the worst stuff in the world for you. It's got trans fats and all these kinds of things. They've manipulated nature. Don't eat margarine. Don't do it. But what we've got here now is this buildup. Now, this is not from oils. Oils, you can, okay, don't recommend this, but the whole idea of just drinking a bottle of olive oil, okay, it's not good for you. Don't you dare do it. But when you have olive oil or plant-based oils, they're a liquid. Okay, and liquids do follow gravity, but not as much as solids do. Okay, and if you eat a lot of animal fat, okay, trans fat, these kinds of things, what will happen is they're solids. They're more prone to gravity than liquids. So you have these solid pieces of fat going through your blood, and what happens is fat likes fat, and they like to accumulate. And what will happen is one of them there will stick to the side of an artery, and then another one floating by will stick to that one and stick, and now you've got some blockage. You've still got to pump 5 liters of blood through this area right here because all your other cells need the oxygen. So now you have limited space in here. Okay? It means your heart has to work harder to get the same blood through. And this is a problem. This leads to hypertension, stroke, these kinds of things, right? And the only thing that is saving people is the elasticity of these arteries. They're elastic. They're like rubber bands, man, and they're tough as nails. They can handle this, all right? But smokers, what'll happen is smoking decreases the elasticity and the strength of these guys here. So these guys here, they become really weak and flimsy. And now you put plaque in here. It's just if there's enough plaque in here, and if this whole surface here gets blocked, that means the cells on the other side of this aren't getting their oxygen, and that's where you'll have cell death. Okay, apoptosis. If this occurs in the heart, you'll have myocardial infarction, which is just fancy word for heart attack. Plaque, cholesterol, fatty substances, cellular waste, and fibrin. Fibrin there, you'll know there that goes, we talked about that there last week there with tissues. The sticky stuff there helps blood clot. Okay. What causes plaque buildup? Okay, we just talked about it there, and can be really bad. So you want to limit the amount. Like, look at that. We look at the blood there through a healthy artery. Look what's going on here. And just devastating the effects can be. Okay. I thought that this was interesting. I don't think I'm going to test you on it, but I just wanted you guys to know that you guys can check your heartbeat wherever you are, whenever you are. There's your radial artery, femoral artery, popliteal, and I kind of put these in here more for the words because we did a lot of them there last week, and we're going to do a lot of them there. We've done there this week there. Popliteal, okay, means behind the knee. There's a little artery in there that you can feel that goes boom, boom. Okay, have a look at those. Use them, don't use them. Good for, just teach the kids even how to do that, check their heart rate. How, when, and why we breathe, and what purpose involves both the respiratory and the circular system. So you see here, I could just put a title slide, respiratory system, but you'll see there that everything is connected. You can't have a CVS system without a respiratory system. Adults there, we breathe about 12 to 20 beats per minute. Okay, sorry, breaths per minute. Okay. What we do is we take in oxygen and we remove carbon dioxide. It regulates blood pH, And your blood has oxygen in it, also has carbon dioxide in it. But this carbon dioxide coming back from my big toe to the lungs, it actually regulates your pH. And the blood regulates your pH because we only want a very specific or precise pH. All right. Respiratory system also warms and moistens the inhaled air. You can't just have, if you just breathed in 0% moisture air, like 100% dry air, it would start taking moisture there from your lungs and your lungs would dry out. So we need moistened, warm air. And it becomes a problem like, was it? That was a long time ago. One of my buddies there, he owned horses. And I don't know if anyone owns horses or not, but you really don't want to be running horses in minus 20, 25, minus 30 weather, because now this massive amount of cold, dry air, you could do lung damage there to your lungs, okay? The nose and your hairs, okay, they are there for a reason. They filter particles, okay? Also gives us a sense of smell. And as well, the respiratory system, the very fact that we breathe and the air coming out of our lungs, we can pass it through our vocal cords and produce melodious sounds through our voice, okay? There was something here I wanted to, it'll come back to me. Now, just organs there of the respiratory system. Okay, and again, we're not going into crazy detail. I'm just showing you guys here. You don't have to memorize them. You just need to be able to recall where they were in the PowerPoint. So, we've got the nose. All right, the nasal cavity. Again, our head is full of cavities. Okay, there's air pockets all over the place there, just for buoyancy, keep making our head light. There's sinuses in here. You have what's called your pharynx. Okay, and then down, and you'll see here that this is basically in and above your, right here. So you have your nose, your nasal cavity, your pharynx is back in here. It's just an area. And I'll zone in. There's different areas of the pharynx, but I don't care about that. Okay, the pharynx is generally this area right in here. And you'll see there that the air comes in, okay? And you have, this is called your trachea. And right beside it, you can't see, is your esophagus. This is the start of your esophagus, and this goes down to your tummy. All right, so the air comes in here and goes straight in here. Well, how do you, I think we've all done it. It can actually be very serious. You can die quite quickly, is, choking on some food. And what happens is you eat some food and the food comes in here, but we don't want the food going into our trachea. The international sign for choking is hands around the neck, right? So we have what's called the epiglottis, which kind of hangs down. So when food comes down here, it comes and slides down because the epiglottis folds down. All right, but this is, the air comes in here. This is your trachea, and you'll see your trachea, which is more important, food or air? Air. You'll die in minutes without air. You'll die in days without food. All right, so the esophagus just kind of looks like a breakfast sausage. There's no real protection. It's just meaty. That's what it is. The trachea, this one here, is protected by these cartilaginous rings. So it's not bone, but it's cartilage there to maintain the structure of the trachea so that we can keep the air going. That tells you how important air is. Okay. So you've got your pharynx up in here. Okay, your lower respiratory tract down here. We have the larynx. You have your trachea. Okay, and then you have your bronchial tree, and here's your lungs here. And you'll notice there that the lungs are different. They are not the same. Okay, and you'll see that this one here has got a little notch, and it's what we call the cardiac notch. It's just room there for the heart, because the left ventricle is a little bigger, right? So it needs a little bit more room. What do we got here now? Respiration is all about diffusion. And you remember I was talking there, I don't know if it was last week or I don't know, even it seems like a million years ago that we started this course, right? The whole idea is we think that we're breathing in air. Well, you're not. Okay? And that air is rushing in. But there's a couple of things there that I want to show you there, that the respiratory system involves the circulatory system as well. So pulmonary ventilation, this is this is just a fancy word for breathing. Moving of air in and out of the lungs. Pulmonary ventilation, breathing. External respiration, as opposed to internal respiration. And what's going on here now is, you see, the air is in your lungs. So now your lungs are going to be talking to the capillaries there carrying the blood. And the oxygen in your lungs is going to jump into the blood. The carbon dioxide in the blood is going to jump into the lungs where it's to be exhaled. So you have pulmonary ventilation, which is breathing. External respiration, which is gas exchange between the lungs and the blood supply. You have transportation of the oxygen to my big toe. You have transportation of carbon dioxide. Okay. And you have what's called internal respiration. So this is where the blood is talking to my big toe. So the difference between external respiration and internal respiration is, this is where the lungs are talking to the capillaries, gas exchange in the lungs. Internal respiration is gas exchange at my big toe, or the final destination. Okay, big toe, big finger, whatever it is. Okay, so there's some good little words there. I think you'll see one of these there on the quiz. Okay, but just to know that the respiratory system works with the circulatory system. Okay, and by the way, what's the whole point? Why do we breathe oxygen? The oxygen is the gas there that we need when you are out camping and you are making a campfire. The more oxygen on the fire, the more fire you get, right? And what's the fire burning? The wood. Well, the banana you just ate for breakfast, the process of digesting it is really no different than that piece of wood burning in a fire. And basically what your body's doing is, your body is burning that banana with oxygen at a very low temperature. Okay? That's what's going on. Your body is burning its food with oxygen at a very low temperature, and instead of there being fire, your body captures that energy, and we are able to do exercise with that. That's basically what it is. So the oxygen there that you put on a fire to make a fire go, it's the exact same oxygen that's going on. Okay? And you'll have a look here. Let's just say here's my big toe, and the blood is returning from my big toe. There's no oxygen. Goes into the heart, right? The vena cava, up the right atrium, right ventricle, and out to the lungs. Okay? Where it picks up oxygen from the lungs, drops off its carbon dioxide in the lungs, okay, and then returns back to the heart, where then it now goes to my big toe. So you have your pulmonary system, your systemic system there, and we'll get into these guys here, alveoli. And within the lungs, okay, and within the bronchial tree, okay, as we said there, the trachea there is it's just a pipe there going from the pharynx down to the lungs. It's protected with these cartilaginous rings, okay? And you'll see here that there's your trachea, okay? There's your larynx, voice box there, trachea. And you'll see that, I don't know, it's not showing up on this side here, but you'll see what's called a primary bronchus. That's your main branch coming off here. And you'll see it's covered in cartilaginous protection. And then it branches off into a secondary bronchus. And then you have what's called at the very end, a terminal bronchus. Not a big deal, okay? At the end of it, though, you have alveoli. And these basically they're just like little grapes. And it's all about surface area, right? Just like last week there when we were talking about the small intestine there with the lungs as well. If you flatten out the entire surface area of the lungs, you're probably looking at a tennis court. Massive amounts of surface area available there for oxygen and carbon dioxide transport. Okay, the mucus also protects the lungs there from infectious agents. We've talked about mucus there, and in conjunction there with cilia, those little hairs there that move the mucus there out the trachea and out the esophagus there, where you can spit it out or do whatever you need to do. Okay, smoking destroys cilia. So one of the problems there with smoking is that the smoke there destroys the hairs in the lungs. So now there are no hairs there to move that mucus out, and it's the mucus there that catches all the bad particles and bacteria and these kind of things. And if you can't get that mucus out, now those bacteria and dirty particles just sit in the lungs, fester, cancer. Okay. Just some shots of some healthy and unhealthy alveoli. And the alveoli, these are these grapes, right? These little grapes in here. And just to tell you, these grapes are surrounded by capillaries. Because remember, capillaries are the only place in the body where you can have exchanging of nutrients or gases. Doesn't happen in arteries, doesn't happen in the aorta, doesn't happen in any type of a big vessel. Only happens in capillaries. And so you'll have a look here. Here are the alveoli. You can see them right in here, these little grapes. And you'll see the capillaries are absolutely enveloped. Okay? And you'll see there that you're breathing in oxygen, and the oxygen through diffusion just jumps right onto, okay, right into the bloodstream. And then the carbon dioxide jumps right back into the lungs. All right, so these are healthy. Okay, you'll see here from smoking, you'll see these alveoli here. They have these brown spots there. They don't look good. And through smoking, you remove the elasticity. These just become like paper nothings, and they become dysfunctional. Okay. Just the whole idea there with the lungs. Last week there we talked about the pleural, okay? The pleural coverings there for the lungs, and there's actually an intrapleural space, okay? You remember we had the, if you take saran wrap and put a little drops of water, remember I was talking about that, and flatten it right out? There's no way you could ever be able to pull these apart, right? Well, that's what's going on here. And I'm not going to go into crazy physics here. The atmospheric pressure is what we call 1 atmosphere. Okay, and that's the normal pressure there for people in South Africa and Brazil and Toronto and Vancouver and New York and Beijing, everywhere. Okay, the atmosphere of the air around the Earth at sea level is 1 atmosphere, or 760 millimeters of mercury. Your lungs will be just a bit off. And what do I mean by that? Okay, so you'll see here that the pressure of the atmosphere is 760 millimeters of mercury. That's every day. Okay, look at what happens there with inhalation. Look at the pressure of the alveolar. It's just a little bit higher than the pressure outside. You can blow out. You want to breathe in, you say. Well, then you see the pressure in the alveoli just a little less. So therefore, the air rushes in. I know it feels like you're sucking it in, but it's actually rushing in. Your lungs, without going into any crazy detail, they expand. So therefore, now you've decreased the pressure in your lungs. Air rushes in. Through your diaphragm, when you're breathing out, the lungs get smaller, increase the pressure, air flows out. Again, we're just having fun here, and I hope, honestly, my goal is throwing this stuff against the wall, and I hope you guys take it and run and do some more investigation on it. But it's really, really fun. The lungs, it's all about diffusion. It's free money. The oxygen is in the air at 21%. It's higher than the oxygen percentage in the blood, so the oxygen in the air just jumps on free. The carbon dioxide in the blood, okay, has a higher percentage than the carbon dioxide in the air, so the carbon dioxide just jumps from your blood to the air and it's gone. And it's amazing how the body utilizes all this free energy and all that kind of stuff. I just thought I'd put this in here. Why do we cough? Why do we sneeze? They're different kind of stuff. We cough to get stuff out. There's a purpose. Why do we sneeze? Irritants. This is more of a reflex. When something, pepper. You put some pepper in your food and you guys will have some and you get some pepper up, you sneeze. You have no joke. You have, you don't have control over that. You gotta sneeze, you gotta sneeze. There's also another one there, yawning. And for the longest time, they couldn't really understand why yawning usually happens at night when our body is starting to shut down. But we still need the same amount of oxygen there that we normally would. So what happens is yawning, you're just taking a big breath of oxygen because your body needs a little bit more oxygen. Brilliant stuff. COPD. I don't know if you guys know anyone who has COPD. It's a bad one there, commonly exhibited there in smokers. Okay, and you'll see here, I just put these, I just wanted to show you guys there what happens to the alveoli. Here's healthy, nice and pink and rubbery and tough. And then you get the alveoli here with COPD. Mucus accumulates, can't get out. The cilia is probably burned. The alveoli become damaged, resulting in larger and fewer alveoli. And if you look, what's the problem with there being fewer alveoli or they become larger? Surface area. Look at all the surface area here. There's walls everywhere. There's surface all over the place. And surface means contact with oxygen. Contact with, we want as much surface area as we can. And now look, we've lost some surface area. So therefore now we can't take, if we need to, we can't take in as much oxygen as we need to. So therefore now the oxygen on Earth at 21% of our air doesn't cut it. So therefore now we need an oxygen tank in our house with the tubes coming up to our nose. Okay? So that's COPD in a nutshell. And most of this is just all in a nutshell. I'm trying to enlighten you guys a little bit here. And here's asthma. Okay, asthma is just a condition where the airways swell due to this reason or that reason. And you'll see what goes on here. Okay, and the airways there of the lungs, they become sore, irritated, red, raw, mucus. And look, how can you breathe with that? Okay, so therefore there you take anti-inflammatories, you would take your inhaler, your puffer, that kind of a thing, okay, to open those airways up. Pulmonary ventilation, okay, that's the act of breathing. And this one here, I'm really not too interested in other than tidal volume. Tidal volume, this is the normal breathing that we do while you're sitting here watching this video. That breathing that you didn't even think about that's going on in the background, that's what we call your tidal volume. And that's the breath there that you take in and breathe out. Take in and breathe out. Take in and breathe out normally. But what I want you guys to do now is just take a normal breath and blow out and then stop. So you take a normal breath. Now, I want you to keep blowing. You've stopped blowing. I haven't breathed anything in yet, but I want you to keep blowing. You have a reserve. You have extra air in your lungs. And we call this there's all these different, you can see there that your tidal volume, your normal breathing, is just this amount. Okay? But there's a lot of other air in your lungs that is just sitting in there. Okay? That we don't breathe out. What are the evolutionary advantages to having a little bit of air always in your lungs? Well, you can think about it that if you hit your head on the wall or something and knock yourself out for, I don't know, 15 seconds, you've got some air, residual air pockets already in your lungs so that your lungs can still breathe until you can regain consciousness. It's amazing stuff, So just the next time there, take a normal breath in. Now, you can keep breathing in after. Okay, breathe out. You can always breathe out a little bit more. Just interesting. And there's a movie there, watch it. Just knowledge is power. Okay. I think there might be one question from here, but I don't think it's too crazy. Okay. I didn't go into any of these there. So have a look. I think you guys would be fine. Moving on. Oh yeah, here we go. We're on the downswing. I think we've got about 20 more slides to go. We may need another break because I heard somebody at the door. I don't know who it was. Yeah, you know what? That's been about an hour. Let's take another, what do we got here? It's 21. Yeah, let's go and take another, I'll see you guys back here at 11:30. If I can see that. Yeah, we'll see you guys back here at 11:30. We'll go and take an 8-minute break. Go and do what you got to do. Go take care of your kids. I got to go take care of mine. So we'll see you guys back here at 11:30. I'll stop the video, but I'll keep the PowerPoint open again. Okay, or I'll keep the WebEx open, so don't go away. I won't close it. But that's where we're at. We'll see you guys back here at 11:30. Sorry, long class, but that's just the way it is. Okay, we'll see you guys back here in 9 minutes. Bye, guys. Stop the video. That.